Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this webinar. Before we start, let me remind you some practical matters that we have been seeing in the screen. Just please keep your micro and camera off. Remind that you can use chat to communicate with the organizers and speakers, and to remind you also that the webinar is going to be recorded. Now we are ready to dive into the institutional welcome, which will be delivered by Mr. Antonio Castro, the General Director of Andalucía Trade. Antonio, whenever you are ready, please.
Thank you very much, Nuria. So, great. Good morning and welcome to this workshop, Innovative Regional Policies to Support Space Industry. And on behalf of Andalucía Trade, or if you wish, Andalucía Trade, our public agency for economic transformation and development under the regional government of Andalucía, warm welcome to all of you. Andalucía Trade is delighted to be a part of the 2023 edition of the World Space Week, a global event that is coordinated by United Nations with this year's 10 main space entrepreneurship. In our region, we are hosting more than 40 activities that are being held this month in October, with most of them taking place in Sevilla. The international celebration of science and technology aims to encourage the greater use of space for sustainable economic development, demonstrating public support for space program and fostering international cooperation in space outreach and education. These objectives are closely aligned with the goal of our regional government in Andalucía. Our region stands as a third hub of the aerospace industry in Europe, and is the second largest exporting region in Spain in this field. Our regional government support the aerospace industry in harnessing space capabilities in order to facilitate intelligent diversification. For sure, space is being taken an extraordinary role in our region, in Andalucía. And in particular, let me point out that Sevilla is being the European capital of space during this year, 2023. Some inputs about the role that Sevilla is playing in this matter. The city has been chosen as the host city for the headquarters of the Spanish Space Agency. Sevilla will also host the EU Space Week, organized by the European Commission and the EU Agency for the Space Program. And finally, Sevilla will assume the chairmanship of the Ariane Cities Network in 2024. Given this vibrant ecosystem, this context, this workshop aims to dig into the opportunities for advancing the space industry in the European regions and trying to draw insights from various regional experiences. To try to facilitate this experience, this exploration, we are fortunate enough to have an excellent lineup of speakers from Spain, Catalonia, Madrid, a representative from the Nereus network, and one expert from the Canterbury Christ Church University. Let me also remark that we are really delighted that our colleague, Nils Valenzuela, from the regional government, will be sharing also some very, very valuable insights. I want to express our sincere gratitude for the availability and the contributions in shaping this webinar. Finally, we hope that the webinar will serve as an inspiring platform for connecting regions, people, stakeholders, ultimately strengthening space industrial ecosystems. So I think that that's all. Thank you, you all, for the attention and the participation. Your attendance to this workshop is much appreciated, and we look forward to a productive and enlightening discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Antonio, for your warm welcome speech. And now we will proceed with the keynote conference from Dr. Lieberman, titled From the Global to the Local, How Policy Shapes the Future of the Space Industry. Sarah is a reader in politics and international relations at Canterbury Christ Church University and a research associate in European space policy at the ESCA School of Management. I remind you that after her presentation, we'll have some time for questions. So if you have any, please feel free to use the chat. Sarah, we are listening whenever you are ready. Please share your presentation.
Thank you very much for your warm welcome, Nura. Here we go. Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for inviting me to your webinar this morning. It's excellent to meet you all, even if it's just on screen, and I hope, as we were saying, that this leads to further collaborations among the regions and that we can all stay in contact. I always enjoy having more contacts in different areas around Europe in particular. I feel it enriches everyone's experience if we can all share our experiences and our expertise. So, my presentation today, there is the title slide here, is really about how we move from the global to the local in space. And I want to focus on space policy and space legislation, because I think this is where regions and localities around Europe really need to focus their attention to make sure that they get the best experience, that they can actually benefit the most from outer space and all the riches that come with that. Now, talking of, riches, certain areas have focused much more on perhaps the mining, the resource extraction. We think about Luxembourg, we think about the actual, riches you can put your hands on. But of course, what we're looking at is not just extraction of minerals from space. We want to discuss also the commercial side of space, the industry, the jobs, the employment that can be brought to your region and to other regions around Europe from working within the space industry and working with the space industry. So I want to start with just some statements here that I've really taken from working with regions in the UK. Largely, I have been I submitted a parliamentary evidence to Westminster about 2 months ago, looking at the Scottish space sector, which is a really interesting case study to look at as well. And what we came up with from that was this notion that regions cannot compete with big space actors. Regions cannot compete with big state actors. And I'll go through why this is the case in my presentation. Because regions cannot compete with the big space actors, i.e. states, and also the big commercial companies, regions need to focus their attention on one area of expertise. And this is what was advised for Scotland, to make clear that they know and everybody is working towards one specific end in a region. Regions also need to make sure that they work with the nation state, with the EU, with global institutions to make sure that legislation is preferential for localities and for regions, to make sure that there is this notion of subsidiarity that was always key to the EU, and that comes to play in the space sector as well, that decisions are taken at the most local level and that decisions are made that work for you, the regions and those sub-regions where you can see benefit accruing from the space industry. As well as working with states, regions and local governments, regional governments, perhaps like lower state level governance, need to work with those commercial actors as well and ask them, what do you need? What do you need from us? What can we provide you with? Why would you want to come here? What would make you come to this region, employ our workers, use our expertise? What can we provide for you? And that can be the key question, really. That should be the key question that sparks the answers to these. Where are you going to focus your attention? And how can we devise that preferential legislation that allows you to focus, to benefit, and to work with the commercial actors that are currently the biggest players in space? Now, the reason I'm saying that regions cannot compete with the bigger actors is because, according to international legislation, international law, regions are not state actors, and the state actor on the international stage is prime. So we look at the space agencies. National space agencies can be considered states. Intergovernmental space agencies, to an extent, are state actors as well. International institutions largely are non-state. Commercial entities, depending how they're engaged by the state, can be state actors or can be non-state actors. So we see Elon Musk and his SpaceX projects going to Mars. They are very much non-state actors there. However, working alongside the Artemis Accords, working with NASA, you can say that they have a state-like presence going into space. Regions are non-state largely, and individuals are non-state. But again, that depends how you engage with the state themselves. Why is this important? Why is it important to think about who the state actor is? And that is because the UN treaties from outer space are entirely focused on states. So the Outer Space Treaty says that non-state actors must have authorization and continual state supervision. Responsibility for compliance is borne by the state party, and the state party from whose territory anything is launched is liable for damage caused. So if regions are taking on a launch facility, and this is something that Scotland has had to think about in particular, because Scotland is looking to open up its own small satellite launch facilities, not having that state actorness means that the UK government is taking responsibility, liability, and must give the authorization for any launches going ahead. So although Scotland, like many of your regions in Spain, sees itself as self-governing and is self-governing to an extent, the state level, the state party remains the higher up level. These are some of the other UN treaties. We have rescue and return. Now it's states who must help astronauts who are in distress. States must pay for anything that needs to be returned to Earth. Liability, the launching state is liable for any damage that is caused, and the launching state must register all products. So the state is very much the important actor, as according to the UN. If we look, this is just a little excerpt of the Outer Space Treaty. You know, its activities of states, a framework for states, launching states. However, now we discover that 80% of outer space activity is commercial. It's not carried out by states. It is carried out by commercial entities. And this could be very beneficial, in fact, for regions who want to work with those commercial entities rather than working for or within necessarily the state apparatus. So perhaps if you're working with one of these commercial entities, you can look very much to entice money in. But the state cannot be forgotten, because it is within the legislation that it is the state that takes responsibility. So regions are not actors on the international stage. Regions are not actors as per the UN Office for Outer Space Activities. However, there's a network of European regions using space technologies. That's Nereus, who's working with regions to boost innovation, economic growth, high-level employment. And these here, there are regions that are really pushing for the release of data, in particular, to allow regions to benefit. for both in terms of financial benefit, so the data interpretation, the use of data in commercial entities, but also to allow the regions to benefit from analysis of that data for other purposes, for agricultural purposes, perhaps, for trade, for transport, for all sorts of reasons that that data could be useful. Now, if we take a couple of little case studies here, Catalonia launched its first nanosatellite in 2021 and its second in 2023. They're hoping to have a small constellation of satellites. That appears to be their aim, is to be the first region in Europe to have this constellation of satellites. And Scotland is moving fast to become the first European launching state for small satellites, to actually have facilities to launch from there. Scotland is also apparently the biggest developer of satellites, of full satellite technology outside of California. So it is really interesting to see these regions actually moving forward and taking those areas of specialization. Yes, I saw some other regions are popping up in the chat area. I've taken two as case studies here because they really demonstrate how regions are specializing on one or other area on a specific area of the space industry. In terms of regions and the local, I think it's quite important that regions don't overlap with state-level space activity, not necessarily because of the competition, but because regions need to be careful not to spread themselves too thin. Regions should be contributing towards what the state is doing, rather than duplicating what the state is doing. And there shouldn't be levels of competition, I feel, throughout the European Union, throughout the nation state. It should really be, space needs to be an area where different regions and different localities, different governing bodies are able to cover their own expertise, their own specialist topic in depth, and do that for the wider region or for the state, so that this is not duplicated. So regions need to work together, and that's why I think Nereus, that you're obviously working with here, and the European Union and I think any body that is working for subsidiarity and for boosting localities and regions is worth working with, to make sure that things are not duplicated and people are not spread too thin. Obviously, in terms of potential benefits, there is a huge potential benefit in terms of the boost to the economy that this will bring to any region that manages to entice commercial activity in or state activity in terms of space. Space is hugely lucrative and it's getting bigger and bigger. There's a lot of discussion of the democratization of outer space, and that's a difficult one. What do we mean by democratization? Is it really just localities going to space, regions going to space, individuals being able to go to space? Is it the provision of data for everybody? And that's, again, something that's regions need to think about as they're going forward. What do you want to achieve? Is it an economic boost? Is it something to do with democratizing outer space? And if it is that wider issue there, that sort of normative issue, then how do you intend to achieve it? That has to go alongside education, programs of education for children through schools, building that expertise but level of knowledge about outer space and allowing everybody to be involved. Now, when we're looking at potential benefits, I think it's also important to look at potential problems. And we have to remember that space is very expensive. All space activity is expensive in terms of technology, environmental costs as well. You need to make sure that everybody is on side and ready to deal with and justify the environmental costs and the financial costs that come with space activity, unless, of course, your region decides simply to analyze data that is coming from Copernicus and Galileo. If you're not looking for actually providing launch facilities, that will be much less of an issue. But still, we have to think about the costs. There is the idea of military provocation as well. Now, theories of international relations tell us that other states and other regions can see it as a threat as you begin to dial up any engagement with hardware or software that can be considered military. And everything that is in space is currently considered dual use. Now, for smaller regions, smaller areas, that is not so much of a problem, but working alongside states, and especially working with these, thinking about Scotland and Catalonia's positions as states that are looking for secession from the nation state, we have to think carefully and tread carefully in terms of dual use and the thoughts of what military connotations this might have. Now, that might seem very much out there, but believe me, nation states and more the EU as well are thinking about the military uses of space and how it can all be used in terms of dual use and military. Now, because of that as well, I see a very close link between the two, military and the legality of establishing regional or local space agencies. That becomes a problem because the nation state sees the establishment of lower level space agencies as a potential threat, as a locality or region looking for access to military hardware. And that is why it's very important to work with the higher levels, to work with the nation state, the supranational level and the global level, to ensure that everyone is aware of what you as a region are doing, and to make it very clear that you're not intending to colonize space or use space for intense military purposes. Now, at the international level, we have the Artemis Accords that were signed recently, and currently that is states that are joining the Artemis Accords, and they have a very political, not just undertones, but the way that this is set up. Now, I know I'm moving away here from the regions and the locality, but I think it's important to look here at the way the states are being brought together on specific issues and looking to the future. And that is something that could in the future be a model for regions as well. Why should it just be states that join accords such as this? Why can it not be lower level regional bodies as well? If it truly is a civilian mission, then it should not simply be states that are able to sign up to this. But an idea there. Now, as well as the Artemis Accords, which very much state level, as I said, the space economy is largely based on the commercial side of space. So if we look at the diagram here, it was as simple a diagram as I could find for this. The commercial sector takes up more than 3/4 of the current space economy. And the space economy is huge. So tapping into this is very, very important. Now, I think as we mentioned, we can't really see regions and local areas becoming involved in this defence sector. So really, we would be looking at civil government work, or indeed tapping into this commercial sector here, which is a lot to do with communications, positioning, all sorts of technologies, data analysis that comes from space. But it also, you have the upstream and the downstream technologies. Those regions, especially more industrial regions, can become very much involved in the development, the innovation, the technologies for launch, for going to space, or involved in the downstream technologies of analysing that data that comes back from space. I was at a session in Bonn, very similar to this one, at the end of September, and they were saying that they feel really the whole space economy now is becoming a data-driven economy. It is the data coming from space from which you can benefit the most, rather than being involved in the development of technologies for launch or to go into space. And I think that's really interesting, especially in terms of regions and in terms of what you are doing. Just looking at that, it is a huge, huge number. Now, there can be a lot of commercial input into state programmes, which gives regions different areas at which they can involve themselves. So if you think of NASA and SpaceX working together on Artemis and other aspects, ESA is working with ClearSpace, which is a private initiative to clear up space debris. And this is an issue that is also going to become more and more important. As states are asked to clear up any mess that they leave in space, then there is more and more access for commercial entities and other entities to be involved in the sustainability side, which was mentioned previously. And sustainability of space is going to become one of the really big issues. So where some people would argue that space is now data-driven, I think sustainability is the next big drive in space. There will be no data coming from space if we can't clear up low Earth orbit. So this is just some ideas about ways that different nations, different state actors are interacting with the commercial sector, and ways that people can think about the regional perhaps going in as well. There's lots of new space law initiatives coming up constantly in all different areas, and regions need to be involved in this. This is where regions can have the biggest input, I would say, because if you're not involved at the writing of policy and at the development of legislation when it's coming out, it's not clear, it won't be clear later on how regions can be involved. So looking at, in the UK, we've got the Space Industry Act, the National Space Strategy, which is clear. Well, currently, actually, the National Space Strategy has set very big priorities, and it is now that regions are able to work with the government to develop those priorities more specifically to see how regions will be involved in the future and going forward. Now, obviously, that is all within also the parameters of the European Space Programme, European Space Regulation, but I know that you're working with EU officials as well, and so I won't focus on that aspect too much. Now, what does national legislation need to cover? Well, national legislation needs to cover how states will implement UN laws. It needs to also cover safety guidelines, insurance levels, end-of-life clearance and sustainability for the commercial space sector, because if you're, as I said, if the state is responsible for actions and any damage caused by the commercial sector launching under their name, then they need to be clear that the legislation is in place. It also needs to specify the public-private projects and who's going to own hardware, who's going to take the profit from hardware, and a huge amount of other details. So if as a region you have a specialization, if as a region you're able to go into the state government and discuss legislation and what it needs to cover for you, then not only do you get in there early and help legislation develop, but you are providing that service for the state. So the takeaways I want you to have from this are that regions can benefit from working with state actors. You should not be in competition at any point. The regions need the states need the regions. Regions, in terms of development, need to prioritise areas in which they can specialise. If you have lots of universities, if you have a high level of technical expertise, focus on that. If you have an industrial sector, in Scotland it worked well. They've had shipbuilding, oil extraction, a lot of heavy industries, which mean that they are well prepared for launch, for preparing launch facilities and the building of satellites. If your region is not able to do that, the East Midlands, for instance, does not have that level of experience, there's another region working within the UK, then you need to prioritise what you can do. Regions need to lobby at the national level, the EU level, and the global level to make sure that legal frameworks fit for the local, fit for the region, and prioritise subsidiarity. And also, regions need to do what it takes to entice commercial players into their area. If regions can lower taxes for corporations, then lower corporation tax. If you can bring those commercial entities in, that is important. So the major takeaways are the commercial sector is huge and is only going to get bigger, but the whole sector is governed and legislated at the state level, and it is essential that regions work with both. So thank you very much for listening. I hope that's been useful for you.
Yes, Sarah, thanks a lot for your presentation. It was truly inspiring and set the stage, I think, for our discussion.
Thank you.
I see a question in the chat coming from the chat is what about strange? Is the question. I don't know if you have any comment about it. Or maybe can be clarify the question because I'm
not sure. I don't know about Estrange.
Estrange is European Space Research. Can you Bern? Can you clarify your question, please? In any case, I noticed two. Yes.
Launch site. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. There are. I don't think Estrange is used currently for commercial launches, as far as I know. I think it's mostly research based. I don't know an awful lot about it. As far as I know, it's mostly a research centre, either preparing for launches of satellites in the near future. That'll also be one to so I'm trying to keep up there with the questions. They are commercial. That'll be one to keep an eye on as well. As I say, I have done most of my work in terms of regions on Scotland because, as I say, I was working on a government call for evidence based on the Scottish space sector and looking at other ones. But yes, Scotland is trying to become this first European launch site, but it will be in competition with Estrange in Sweden, because looking at where they sit geographically, they'll be going for the same orbits. So that will be an interesting one to look at. Launch, okay, Estrange will launch in 2024. I think that's kind of when Scotland are looking to launch as well, from their Sutherland ones. So interesting. That is something to keep an eye on. Thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Okay, well,
yes.
Other questions?
Here we have a recent successful experience in Andalusia with Miura. I just mentioned it. Okay, Sarah, then I think we are going to pass to the roundtable. I thank you again for your brilliant presentation. We are going to, in the chat, they are asking for the presentation, to send the presentation. So we are going to share with all the attendants, okay?
Okay, that is absolutely fine. That would be lovely. And will the round table be recorded as well? Will I be able to see it later?
Yes, of course, we will record. Okay, we will send it to you.
Thank you very much. I'm teaching this morning, so I can't stay, unfortunately. But thank you all very much, and I hope to meet you again.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Now we are going to start with a roundtable of experts from 3 different regions, each of whom will share a regional initiative related to space policies. In addition, we are honored to have in the roundtable a supra-regional perspective joining us today. Nereus, the network connecting European regions that use space technologies, is going to also to showcase collaborative efforts in space policies. So the roundtable will have this format. Each panelist will share a presentation of 8-10 minutes to provide their insight. And then we will open the floor of questions from the audience. So you can make via chat, as we did before, your question or comments. So hopefully we'll have some time for the debate at the end. So we begin with initiative from Madrid. Okay, is represented by Carlos Romero, Mr. Carlos Romero. He's currently managing ESABIC Madrid region, the incubation program of the European Space Agency and Comunidad de Madrid, led by Fundación para el Conocimiento Madrid +D. Carlos, are you ready?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
thank you.
so please proceed. Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you for inviting me to this event. I think it's really important to give visibility to how from the public sector we are supporting to the space industry. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity and to give visibility to what we are doing in 3 regions. As you can imagine, space is a strategic sector in Madrid, considering the industry located in the upstream and the downstream sector. And as we are going to see later, is also, I think, strategic for also in Andalusia and in Catalonia. And these are wonderful news for not only for the space industry in Spain, but in general for Spain. I think we, as Sarah Lieberman mentioned, we want to be an important actor in space, and we have to compete not against Catalonia, Madrid, and Seville, but compete with Harwell in UK or Toulouse in France, where they have a very, very huge industry in space. So I think it's a wonderful news to see that all our different regions are having different strategies to support and to make grow this space sector. And here, not to talk about all the activities made in Madrid to support this space sector, I'm going to talk only about 2 specific actions. And first of all, let me to introduce what is Fundación Madrid +D. It's a foundation depending of Comunidad de Madrid. We have are responsible of all the higher education, the certification, the verification, etc. But what is important for the support to different sectors, including the space, is what you can see in the upper part of the slide. We are responsible of some activities related to the dissemination, like European Research Night or Madrid Science, and very important, we are responsible of supporting the entrepreneurship, the technology-based entrepreneurship, and the technology transfer and internationalization through the Enterprise Europe network that we coordinate in Madrid region. And these are the main tools we have in Madrid to support specifically the entrepreneurship in space. Next slide, please. I'm going to present here some initiative. As I mentioned, in Madrid +D, we are focusing technology-based entrepreneurship because they have different requirements, different time to market, and specifically in the space sector, we are having some initiative. We are supporting with incubation programs in different sectors like space, health, or other emerging technologies. We have for supporting that our own business mentor network. We have a business mentor certification to ensure the quality of the mentoring we provide to the startups. We have our own business angel network to make accessible the investment to the startups, and a network of experts. And we have our tools to have a map of the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Madrid. Is the Startup Radar. I'm going to specifically talk about 2 initiatives. One of them is marked here, is the European Space Agency Business Incubation Center, and this is the initiative I'm bringing here to this presentation. So next and last slide from my side, please. As I mentioned, I'm going to talk about the European Space Agency Business Incubation Center. In this case, is co-financed by Madrid and powered and managed by Fundación Madrid +D. European Space Agency, or ESABIC's business incubation centers are located all around Europe. I'm talking about a network of 29 centers with more than 90 locations. We are supporting currently more than 200 startups, and we have support more than 1,500 startups from the beginning of this initiative. We started in Madrid in 2015. Right now in Spain, we have 2, as you can see in the map in the slide, two SABIC running, is Madrid and Barcelona. One almost running because they are very close to publish their open call, is in Castilla y León, and hopefully we'll have very soon two more, one in Castellón and another one in Seville, that will allow to cover better all the Spanish region, to support better to all the startups related to space. And I'm talking to a program that have the same philosophy, the same methodology, all led by the European Space Agency, but with the singularity of the local execution. As Sarah mentioned, to work locally is very important, and in this case, it's very important to improve the program to allow to access to all the local resources that are different in each region. You can imagine that the resources we have in Madrid are different than the ones you have in Catalonia or in Seville. You'll explain later. This local execution allow to the startup to be more linked to the local resources you have in each region. We are talking about supporting space startups. I mean, three kinds of startups. The startups that are developing space technology, obviously, but also the ones who are using space data, Earth observation, satellite navigation, or telecommunication, or space technologies for other sectors with innovative applications. All the benefits we are offering the SABICs are the same. We are giving an economic incentive. No equity is only to improve their technical development. We are providing mentoring, access to facilities, local resources, technical support, to link their brand to the two powerful brands, like in our case, for example, obviously European Space Agency, but also Comunidad de Madrid. And what is most important, to work as a network cooperating between or among all the SABICs. Finally, just to put another example of how from Madrid we are supporting the space sector, is another initiative led by Madrid. We have created recently a new cluster. The name is Cluster of Innovation and Talent in Space Technologies in Madrid. Is most important of this cluster, I think, are two questions. First, is focus only in space. Space, obviously, aerospace is a big sector, but we are talking here only about the space, and space is strategic for Madrid, and this cluster is one tool for support this sector. And second, the words I mentioned, they are focused in innovation, in technology, and in talent. The objective of the cluster is to improve the sector and to help the industry to be more competitive. That's all. I think we'll have time later for question, and thank you again for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Interesting presentation about SABIC in Madrid, and also a little bit. No, we don't have much time for all to explain the whole ecosystem, but we are very interested in this experience because, as you mentioned, Sevilla has been chosen to host the next SABIC in Spain. So I'm confident that my colleague from CATEC, FADA CATEC, who is attending this seminar, will be taking good note of everything you have mentioned. So now, we pass to our next speaker. I am pleased to introduce Mr. Giuseppe Colomé. He's the director of the area of the promotion of the space sector of Catalonia at the Institut d'Estudios Espacials de Catalunya. He will be presenting the new space strategy of Catalonia from space to users. So please, whenever you want, whenever you are ready. We cannot hear you. Sorry. I'm going to. No. Can you? No. Está habilitado, ¿no? Josep, we cannot hear you. Maybe you can have a look of the configuration. Now, yes, I think now it's...
Can you hear? Now can you hear me?
Yes, now we
Okay.
can hear you. Fine.
Okay. Good. Excellent. So I wanted to start also appreciating the invitation. That's a pleasure for me to be here and to share with all the attendees and with the colleagues of this roundtable the experience in Catalonia that was initiated in 2020 when the Catalan government approved the new space strategy of Catalonia. As you can see here in this slide, this new space strategy came together, or after several other strategies were approved connected to the digital technologies, to the digital sector. So as you can see, there was a strategy for 5G communications, for blockchain, and for artificial intelligence. And the new space strategy came afterwards. Because of the strong link between the digital technologies and the space technologies. And this is the point that we want to emphasize, that this is what distinguishes what we promote and develop with the execution of this new space strategy. This strategy is led by the Catalan government and is deployed in collaboration with 3 different institutions. The institution I represent, the Institute of Space Studies of Catalonia, was created in 1996 and is fully devoted to space technologies. And we are accompanying all the activities in which these space technologies are key. And we do this role to work together with the Catalan government in that sense. I2CAT Foundation is devoted to digital technologies and space communications, and is this very important contribution to the deployment of the strategy. And the Institute for Cartography and Geology of Catalonia is the 3rd institution that is the Geoinformation Agency of the Catalan government. And with them, we are also deploying different activities within the strategy. And as you can see on the right, there are 6 different pillars. This means different topics to cover in a wide view the different activities that are needed to promote basically the growth of the space sector, the new space sector in Catalonia, which is the final goal of this strategy. And as I said, benefiting from the strong pole of innovation of the digital sector that is located in Catalonia. Rapidly, I could summarize saying that there are these 6 pillars. One is the promotion of the ecosystem, that I will explain a bit further. The research and innovation, that is basically focusing on promoting the transfer of technology from the research to the industry, reducing the time to market of the technologies and promoting the private and public collaborations. The talent and society pillar is fully devoted to beyond on the midterm and long-term perspective, the generation, attraction, and retention of people. That in the end, that's the important piece of the puzzle that is needed for the growth of the sector. And that's very important because we used to have many people going abroad to deploy their activities on the space sector after being trained in the Catalan universities, and this is something that we want to address with this. Regarding the infrastructures and data, we are also deploying different infrastructure that some of them were mentioned before by Sarah in the keynote, and I want to explain more about that in the next slide. But this deployment of infrastructure is to facilitate the deployment of these innovative technologies by the ecosystem. The adoption of services, this is an important also piece of this new space strategy, because we want the Catalan administration to play the role of an anchor tenant, to use the technologies that are developed, being one of the first users, which is very important for the industry and for the commercial companies to deploy their activities. And finally, regarding what we call the regulatory framework, is mainly what was discussed before, and what is discussed today is the role of regions in this space sector, and I will illustrate this in the following slides. In If you can go to the next one, please. Okay, that seems to be a bit messy, but I will try to explain this. On the left, you see different examples of what we do. So we have, for the ecosystem promotion, we have the ISA Incubation Center, which is key for the creation and incubation of companies. We are also promoting the hosting hackathons and the creation of startups and these incubated companies in the Business Incubation Center. As I said, we are also putting in place an acceleration program, etc., to promote this creation of companies and consolidation and growth of these companies. That is basically creating jobs with a very high added value to make the wheel run. We also creating the Digital Catalonia Alliance. This is putting together the different strategies for the digital sector, and Newspace is one of them. We want this to be a way to distinguish what we do and to promote the space sector together with the digital sector. It's true, we are launching nanosatellites, and I will explain this in more detail. And we are also working on the research activities that has strong synergies, with other technologies that are quite key and consolidated in Catalonia, working on the digital sector, like cybersecurity, quantum communications, etc., to work together with space technologies. Regarding the and here on the bottom side, you see the dimension of the new space ecosystem that was measured in 2021. Now it's being updated with more than 90 companies, and a strategy to a roadmap to make the companies follow the road to the creation and to growth and investment for them to grow here in the ecosystem. We are working together with the different associations. Nereus is a key one, where we see that the regional view is exposed and can be promoted in collaboration with other regions and with the European Commission and other initiatives at the state and European level. And we are participating in different events also to promote this view of the ecosystem, like the IAC or the Space Tech Expo that will happen in Bremen. And I invite all of you to come to the booth that we will have there. And we are also organizing the New Space Economy Congress every year. That's the 4th edition this year, 22nd and 23rd of November in Barcelona. And we are also inviting you to participate there. And on the right, this is the connection between regional and users. And that's where I wanted to illustrate, or we wanted to illustrate this view in the sense of we are taking care of what is happening at European level. We are launching nanosatellites to see how we can complement and learn faster what at the European level is needed. And we are collaborating at regional level with local organizations and with other regions to develop activities and use cases that are in the end beneficial for the societal use of these technologies. And here on the bottom side, you can see different images that illustrate what we are talking. We promote that. We launch nanosatellites to learn, to innovate, to accelerate the development of these technologies. And with this learning and the development of services that can be complementing what is obtained by using Copernicus, Galileo, etc., we can provide tools for the ecosystem to develop these new technologies. And we are also putting instruments that you will see in the following slide, please. Where we can promote the use of this space data to develop services in the end for the ecosystem and developing services and products for this ecosystem. For this, we are using public procurement for the development of use cases and applications for the administration and also for the private sector. And here there are some hints to illustrate what I'm referring to. We are running challenges that are executed in the end by the private companies. We are launching with the economics department, public procurement, innovative procurement, to also run a pre-commercial testing of technologies that will in the end be used by the administration as a service, as a nominal service. And we are also launching calls for playing with the private sector or working with the private sector to develop applications that are needed for the private sector. This was done after an iterative process with the Catalan government departments, where we identified several tens of use cases that could benefit from using space data. And as a bottom remark, this is where we see the way to solve a problem is the last mile problem, is how we can make the space technologies be useful by the last user or by the final user that is having a problem, but has no knowledge on the space technologies that could be solving this problem. And this is where we see this launching of public procurement, identification of use cases, adoption of service by the Catalan administration as the key tool to promote this in the end. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Josep, for your also inspiring presentation. The approach taken by Catalonia is quite particularly in public procurement. I think it's quite interesting for us, for Andalusia as a region, as our regional speaker, Andalusian speaker is going to present now next. And now the last experience, as I said, is will be shared by Ms. Nieves Valenzuela Romero, Director General of Innovation Promotion of the Council of University Research and Innovation at the Regional Government of Andalusia. Her presentation will focus on public procurement of innovative solutions, space industry, and RPA's development opportunities. Thank you, Nieves. Please.
Thank you so much, Nuria. Good morning, everyone. Greetings to all attendees, and many thanks to my dear colleagues of Abengoa Trade for inviting me to participate in this webinar. The main objective of my presentation is just to share one of the aerospace sector initiatives, the Public Innovation Procurement Program, in which we are working on from the regional government. Just to explain the regional policy framework, we have an aerospace strategy approved by the Regional Government Council on March 2021. This strategy was defined together with the private and public stakeholders and has 5 strategic lines. These are the ones you can see in the slide. Investment in technology, sector qualification, new products and markets promotion, aerospace ecosystem empowerment, and finally, a specific training. Within the strategy, the lines are developed in programs, sub-programs, and it also includes responsibilities, time frame, and follow-up indicators. The key aspect here, very related to our to the initiative I'm going to share, is the third strategic line, the new products and markets promotion. This program is also split in 3 sub-programs: current products promotion, space industry, and remotely piloted aircraft systems, and other aerospace activities. The sub-program number 2, space industry and RPAS, is the one that enables our current initiative. Within the strategy, it is recognized that Junta de Andalucía has a high public demand capacity for services coming from Earth observation and also from RPA systems, which can generate public demand. And currently, the regional government, in fact, the University Research and Innovation Council, is leading the definition of a public procurement of innovation solutions to promote the space sector. Next one. As you can see in the slide, we can see here that the promoter, the buyer, is the Research and Innovation, University Research and Innovation Council. And what we are going to include within the program are the needs defined by other different councils. I mean, other public entities that have real needs related to the space sector. And the market is the one that, according to the public procurement process, have to define the solution to the challenge or need from the public sector. We are also considering to include challenges or needs from the private sector, but in a first stage, in the short term, we are going to include just the public ones. So in the next slide, the expected impact that we want to achieve according to the program is, first of all, to solve needs from the public sector, from other councilings, and also from the private sector. But as I said before, we are going to start with the public ones. The second one is to improve our industry, our regional industry, competitiveness, and to provide new tools and new capabilities to them. The third one is to attract business investment to our region, to strengthen our companies and our capabilities, and finally to attract and apply European funds to Andalusia. And finally, and just to conclude my presentation, I would like to invite you, all of you, to an event that we're going to have tomorrow in the morning, in which we are going to present the preliminary market consultation tied to the space sector, in which we are going to explain 4 needs, 4 challenges that we want to solve for the public sector, in fact. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Nieves. It's clear that the space sector in Andalusia is in a critical point right now. So we expect all the success for this first experience with the public procurement. And now, last but not least, it is the turn of Nereus, the network of European regions using space technologies. Ms. Roya Ayazi, the Secretary General of Nereus, is going to share some initiatives carried out by the network in benefit of the regions. Please, Roya, whenever you are ready, you can start.
First of all, thank you to the Andalusian Innovation Agency for this kind invite. I'm very glad to be here with you, and I found the presentation previously very inspiring and like to make also a reference. Next one, we are a European network. Next slide. We are a European network. Currently, we have 23 regions with us. Regions is the level next to the national, the federal state in our understanding. And in the regions, we are linked to ministry in general. Either it's the president or it's the economic ministry or the transport ministry. In some cases, it's also university. But as we are focused on the use of space data and behind that that is often economical commercial activities. We work mostly with in economic context. And then we address all the stakeholder in the regions, the whole players of the triangle, of the innovation triangle, of the helix structures. These are the players that are essential. These are the players, and bringing them together, that are needed to develop the space markets, to develop the markets that use space data and space-based services. And as a European network, I found the presentation by Joseph Colombet and Carlo Romero very interesting. They are two of our members, and we bring to this kind of activities a European dimension. We help regions, exactly what Mrs. Lieberman said, to understand where are their strengths, and those ones are the areas where it makes sense to look for European partner, to show at a European scale your expertise and what you are doing, and to try to build partnerships and cooperations. We work on three main angles: advocacy, political dialogue, highlighting when we are doing European space policy and programs, what are the needs of the regional level? What do we need to build these space markets and make sure that the substantial investment that we all doing, because with your tax money, you're paying European space infrastructure. We are having in the current framework program, in the current EU budget that goes until 2027, almost 15 billion, and you are paying that, and we want to make sure that the benefits of this infrastructure reaches the regional level. Is also that programs are also made that regional stakeholder can successfully join them and participate. Next. We have two Spanish regions, a Comunidad de Madrid. It's a founding region, and more recently, but very active and also present in the management board, Catalonia region. And we really hope to win also Andalusia to join us. If there is anything I can do, and I will also follow up after this meeting, it's already a very good step. We started the dialogue, and I think we can, to this interesting process that happens in Catalonia, contribute. Please, next slide. We have a second group of partners, the associate partners, space agencies, regional network, industry, SMEs that have an interest in the use of space and work with us and join our activities. Next one. I put for you as what does this platform bring for you, and very much we consider interregional partnerships, cooperation a very, very important aspect for better accessing the opportunities of space, for better, I like very much in Mrs. Lieberman's intervention, what we are talking nowadays is our data-driven economies, and we want to make sure that space data is a key feature of this data-driven economies and accessible to everyone, that also small and medium-sized enterprises, small research organizations, small players, young startups can fully benefit from that. Please, next one. We look at regions really as regional ecosystem. And for us, it's very important to address, to look at the sectors outside the space sector. We work very closely. The cluster structures in our regions are protagonists together with the SME, and we really look at them and try to partner them, try to bring them together with the sectors outside the space sector, with automotive, with energy, food production, just to name a few. And what is the strength of our platform is that we have the whole range of stakeholders that are needed together on one platform. We have the public user, and I found the contribution by Maria Niveles very interesting. We have the public user with us, and we have the whole range of stakeholders that develop space-based services and product. And we see an important part of our activities to bring those two groups together, to dialogue, to exchange, and also to, we think it's important that regions are empowered, better empowered to use and to benefit from space-based services. And one important step on this way is to work with public users, with public administrations, in order for them to first understand, get a better awareness and understanding what they can do with space, but also better to express their needs and really contribute and drive. And I think this is an important word in this respect, drive the public demand, not letting the others tell you what you need, but having an active role and telling the space companies what you need. Next one. I brought some projects that we realized together with our stakeholder to explain what can be the benefit of a European platform. Why can European corporations be an important asset to better access space? Next one. One of our flagship initiative is Copernicus for Regions. And I invite you to visit our website and have a look at our videos or the collection of 99 user stories where we brought concrete examples how regions are already successfully using the European Earth Observation Program Copernicus. And what are the concrete benefits for the citizen? And one thing that I was missing in Mrs. Lieberman's presentation, she was highlighting so much what regions should do and should not do and what is their role. But I think when we talk about space, and it's enshrined in the European space strategy, that space is at the service for the citizen. The citizen pays European infrastructure, and the citizen is in the first row to benefit. And there is where the public authorities and where from the regional and local level come, because they are the closest to the citizen. And if the state wants to reach the citizen, they have to work with the local and regional level, with the region. And this is where I see a very important role and where I see a very important role of the public authorities of the local and regional level. And when we speak about many sectors which are very advanced with the use of space technologies, and I'm talking about agriculture and I'm talking about civil emergency, there also the regional and local level has a very, very important role. Agriculture is the most advanced. Agriculture is the one where we have in Europe the biggest budgets. And here you have to bear in mind that the second column of the agriculture of the EU agriculture budget is implemented by the local and regional level. And there we have to see what can we do better, what can we do better to implement space in really work process. And with Copernicus for Regions, we wanted to make a bit the situation at a European scale more transparent. We wanted to see are there joint interests of regions. We could, for instance, it was really randomly. We published a call and we made people respond, but we could see that, for instance, use of Copernicus data for forest fire, for civil emergency is a very high interest for all regions in the south. And what we think and why I invite you really to join us as a European network, that community building, bridging service provider and public users is really, really essential to better accessing and to using and broadening the scope of possible users. Next one. Out of this Copernicus and the interaction with Copernicus for Regions, which also was amongst our members, and I really want to see it as an open initiative. We will invite next year new stories, but some of our members got together and developed an Interact project, and they are working together now, really targeted to better transform satellite imagery into tools for public administrations. And I invite you to go to our website to have a look. The project consortium made a video on their initiative and explain it. They will work on different topics that are very closely linked with the respective expertise of the region. Some of them work on energy, some of them work on civil emergency. It very much depends. Some of them works on urban planning, very much again on the strengths of regions. There you can really see a practical example. And also what we see at the regional level, and I found very interesting what Joseph highlighted. You see that regions make now big steps, and they have really agenda and targeted strategy behind it. And they are, and I think this is also the strengths of region, that these strategies can be linked, can be connected with overall environmental, Green Deal agendas and economic agendas. Next one. For us, it is very important to have really a forum, to have really occasions where we bring the different members together. And our focus, our objective is to work really with tangible examples. And we have annually symposium where all the members come together, and we organize this at physical events. We just had one event in Matera at the end of September, where we brought different best practices together and debated them with public users. We had a whole panel of representatives of the public administration and the whole community, companies, research organizations that develop space applications. And we discussed how can we better use space data for tourism and agriculture. We had invited this, I think, is also an important aspect, an important background if you work on public procurement. We had a whole panel of directors from local and regional authorities that explained what are the challenges they are looking at, what are the problems they have to solve, what are their experiences, and how do they perceive space. And we brought really people from the ground, really the young entrepreneur that develops a service, the scientist, and we made them talk together. Next one. And for us now to keep, and that's why I'm inviting you to keep in touch with our members, we organize web-based events, webinars, like the one you organized today, but we do it for specific topics. Go on. Next one, we have one. Next one, we have one for the dimension, safety, security, safe defense dimension of space, really to look and understand the latest developments. Next one. And we had, and there I invite you also to visit our website. We had together with Eurisy a whole series where we looked at What can you do with space technologies to better monitor, to better look at critical infrastructures? Because our Italian regions had flagged that critical infrastructures are for them a key topic. Next one. Next one. Sustainable tourism, cultural heritage is in all our region a priority. It's in most economics and important of our regions an important sector, and there we really want to work together to see how can we contribute with the using space data to a more sustainable tourism and better protection of cultural heritage. Next one. And we have, of course, and there I find this cluster that Carlos presented with talent. Education training is, of course, key if we want to use space data effectively. It's the starting point. So there is also very, very strong focus on our platform. I thank you very much, and I hope to keep in touch in particular with Andalusia and to welcome you soon on our platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roya, for your interesting presentation. I hope also that Andalusia can become part of the network in a near future. Well, now it's a moment for any question or comment from the attendees. I have seen that the chat is quite alive. So I'm going to read some of your comments. Maybe we start here with the... Okay, Irene from CATEC, thanks Carlos for his presentation. SABIC in Sevilla will be, as we mentioned, led by CATEC in Andalusia. Also, Mr. Bern Weiss is remembering CETAE Center in Castelldefels that was always super vibrant. Actually, the first place I ever flown a quadruped in 2007. Then we have a comment from Miguel Ángel Paz. Well, he has to leave, sorry. So, yes, it's a little bit in general what we had. Let me see. Also, Mr. Bern was quite active in our chat. He's doing some comments about Andalusia and the way that the space ecosystem should focus. And also, he's interested in the webinar that we are holding tomorrow. Ms. Nieves Valenzuela was saying in her presentation, and here you can find the link, the email address where you can make the registration. So you can here register for the meeting for tomorrow. And Enrique was offering the link for the satisfaction initiative from Nereus. So I think it's all. Okay. So I don't know if there is any question from the public. I cannot see very much if it's... The initiative, Bern, you mean, oh, sorry. What are the options and how to engage with you? You mean in the initiative of tomorrow, or what are the options and how to engage with you? In the space ecosystem. Okay, maybe you can contact me afterwards and we can have a short meeting, because there are several ways. I mean, we have a very active aerospace cluster in our region, and also Oh, well, I don't understand very well your question. Anyway, we are almost on time, so yes, I think it's time to finish maybe the webinar. I thank you just to have some moments to thank all the attendants, and also, of course, to the speakers, our speakers, for their dedications these last days, and for well, being here today with us. Thank you very much, and well, have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.